Ted Craver is the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of the Edison Company, which is located in Southern California. He also is a leader in this industry and the immediate past president of the Edison Electric Institute. Ted, welcome to the broadcast. We've heard people and had them on this program who have said that there is a social consequence to what is happening, that rooftop generation is going to cherry pick the utility customer base. The result is going to be that those who cannot afford to put solar on their roofs and sell the electricity back to the utility if it's in surplus are going to have to pay for the poles and the wires, and it has even been suggested this could be a civil rights issue, but certainly a social justice issue. How will the poor have to pay for everything, and if they do, how will they pay for it?
Well, I think there's some themes there that are, in fact, important ones and ones to plan for. But on the broader point of if someone has rooftop solar, does that mean they're actually disconnecting from the electric system? And on that point, I think it's pretty clear. They are not. So the electrons aren't running from the panel down into the socket and into their coffee maker. The electrons are going back into the grid, and then they're being pulled from the grid to serve homes and businesses. So in an odd way, when you have solar panels on the roof, there are periods of time when you have excess and you're selling it into the grid. There's periods of time when you don't have enough and you're buying from the grid. So you're actually involved in a two-way relationship with the grid. Whereas if you don't have solar, it's a one-way, simply from the grid to the home and business. So I just think it means with the advent of rooftop solar or any on-premise generation, that you're having a more complex relationship between the customer and the grid. The grid is still the network. That's the thing that connects all of the homes and businesses, all of these technologies, all of the potential future technologies. So I don't see it as the utility will be, displaced and made irrelevant. I actually think it needs to change, and that distribution system that connects the homes and businesses needs to become considerably more flexible and more modernized so that it can handle even more of these new technologies coming into the system.
Tell me about electrification of transportation.
Yeah.
You're in the part of the world where everybody drives, or the car is king.
I have one myself.
You have an electric vehicle.
I do, all electric.
What do you think this will mean for the utilities? Is this a huge new business opportunity?
I think it can be. Up to this point, I would say it's still trying to gain momentum, and some of that has something to do with the way the market is structured. Some of that has to do with just getting people comfortable with the notion I can get into an electric car and I'm not going to get stuck somewhere. So that gets back to the charging infrastructure, how ubiquitous is the chargers. But I think it actually has a tremendous opportunity. And you mentioned Elon Musk. They're trying to constantly extend the range of their vehicles.
This is the Tesla.
The Tesla, and reduce the price point of the car so that it's more affordable for a wider number of people.
Do we have to go all the way to the total electric? The hybrid is in fact an electric car with a power plant on board, a gasoline power plant on board. Isn't that perhaps a better way, or is that just the bridging mechanism?
I tend to think it would be more of a bridge, but it's a little hard to predict where customer preferences are going to be. But if you stand back from it and say, one of the reasons for having all electric is that it is better for the environment, whether that's tailpipe emissions or it's in the form of carbon, then the more you can move to all electric, the better. I think the key is, what's the actual use? What I use mine for is I tend to do just local travel. I'm not taking the car on long trips. If I'm going to go on a long trip, I use different transportation. So I think for inside an urban setting, where most of your commuting and activity is, well under 40, 50 miles a day, that's where the electric vehicle, all electric, actually makes terrific sense. If you're trying to go across the country, Certainly Tesla is trying to make it that you could go across the country with an all-electric. But I think that's where you might get more of a mix between the hybrids and all-electrics.
I'm wondering if we might not see portable charging vehicles, sort of emergency vehicles, like a gasoline tanker that you called the AAA if you got flat and it came and gave you a quick boost as a possibility. Using the ideal, not just a drip feed at home, but a full electric charge. How long does it take to charge your vehicle?
So if I use a level 2 charger, and I have 85-mile range on my vehicle, if I use a level 2 charger, so 220 volts, it'll take between 4 and 5 hours depending on just how far down I've discharged it. So if it's fully discharged, it'll take closer to 5 hours to recharge it. If you have the level 4, which is the super fast chargers, something like that can be done in really a matter of a half an hour to an hour.
So it is possible AAA might be able to get a system where they could rush out and help the stranded electric driver.
If the vehicle itself is capable of taking a fast charger, the 480,
Southern California, stuck in drought. Once the dream place in the world. How is it affecting electric supply?
Well, it's kind of interesting. The California Independent System Operator, so for the grid of California, just came out with their summer readiness projection. And they actually projected that even with the drought, we only had 4% of normal snowpack this year, which really fuels hydroelectric. That with the drought, in the peak of summer, they still expect that we would have a 39% planning reserve margin.
So there's no reason to leave California because you think you're going to be out of electricity?
Not for that reason, definitely.